I welcome all the participants. As a political prisoner of the 1970s and 80s, I am very concerned as I look upon what's going on now. I could describe what's going on briefly. It looks like the world has again forgotten about the shared traffic rules, and therefore everyone moves the way he or she wants according to their interests. Every now and then, from Arseniy to crucify him, from never again to Putin's threat, we can do it again. This is the change of the paradigm, and we don't see the signs saying "buckle up, fasten your safety belts." I'm very concerned seeing the ongoing peace initiatives, which does not relate to the punishment of the Putin's regime. This sounds like a deja vu to me, because the communist crimes back in the past were not punished, and we now see that the seeds which remained in the soil, the seeds of crimes, gave new green shoots, and they have been incarnated in the Putin's regime. Once again, if we make the same mistake now, and if we let the aggressor go scot-free, we will have a repeat of the tragedy in a certain period of time. I don't know when, but it will happen. There is a principle of justice which says that punishment should be inevitable. I very often heard that from investigators working on my case, but the political logics very often contradict that. Today, the thought of punishing Russia makes some people in the West panic, and there's no country in the world which could occupy the territory of Russia and still an occupation of the regime there. And the experience of Hitler kind of translated itself into a taboo against certain policies. We fail to persuade people in the West that it would be much better to ensure bringing Russia to accountability. Instead, they want to keep Russia afloat, to keep the political balance, and to prevent the strengthening of China. All that is exacerbated by the fear in the West that Russia will fall apart and the nuclear weapons may fall into the hands of terrorists. So this is a repeat of the situation of 1991, when George Bush and Margaret Thatcher appealed to Ukrainians not to resort to ruining nationalism and not to allow the disintegration of the USSR, because that would make nukes uncontrollable. So the world has finally to work out its vision of how this war should come to an end, because Putin did not change his attitude to Ukraine at all, and both the Ukrainian state and Ukrainian nation, in his view, should disappear. There are three options we are facing. One envisions that the Western democracies will renounce their values. If the West does everything possible to prevent the crash of Russia, the West should be straightforward and say that they, at the same time, can allow another similar thing to repeat itself in terms of the resolution of the so-called Ukrainian issue. And Ukraine will become a scapegoat. But what in this case will remain of the ethical construction of the West? Another option is to postpone the resolution of this issue for the future. In this case, Ukrainians would be doomed to a repeat of aggression in the future. A fair peace cannot be achieved by departing from the truth or by ethical defeat. Ignoring values introduces into the life of the world the disruptions as a result of which what we're trying to safeguard gets jeopardized. And here we're talking about security. Today we're closer to the Third World War than we were in 2014. We cannot but recall yet another aspect of that kind of peacekeeping when the so-called green men occupy the Crimea. The Western politicians, primarily the Obama administration, cautioned Ukraine against any military actions by way of responding to that aggression. And they said that we will resolve that by diplomacy. We kept hearing that from our Western partners all the time. Today, we're being accused by President Trump. I quote, if he, Zelensky, wants the Crimea, why didn't they fight for it 11 years ago when it was given up to Russia without a single shot fired? The cynicism of such a statement is really shocking. And the final point, Crimea is something that one more ethical failure of the world is related to. There's something very strange that so little attention is being paid to the fate of the Crimean Tatars. In the mass conscience of the world, there is a pattern about Crimea being an inalienable part of Russia, even though the Russians owned Ukraine for a much shorter period of time than the indigenous people of Crimea, the Crimean Tatars. Now we're being urged to accept the loss of the lost territory of Crimea, forgetting that if for Ukraine this is 20% of the territory, whereas for the Crimean Tatars we're talking about a loss of 100% of their land. And the modern peacekeepers seem to say to the Crimean Tatars, you people are too little for us to reckon with your interests, and your share in the occupied Crimea is something we couldn't care less about. Make a deal with the Russians on your own. So for Ukrainians, our hope for the future is inalienably connected with the hope harbored by the Crimean Tatars.